The real NV87, the blind NV87, the NV87 who doesn't care what the screen looks like. Good morning. Wow, I don't know what I'm going to do with yesterday's vlog. I've got like literally an hour worth of stuff to edit. I know I do still have some editing to do, but I wonder if I'm going to have to split it up at the point where, well, split it up somewhere and make a part 2 out of it. I know I ended up having 2 different vlogs in one. I may have to split it up either at the point where we went from one thing to the next big disaster, or, well, I shouldn't call it a big disaster. It all worked out. Even though one part didn't happen the way I wanted it to, it is going to work out, and the other part certainly did not start the way I wanted it to, but it worked out too. Anyway, though, I can't do any kind of editing right now. Well, I could if I really wanted to, but there's more important things to do today in this moment. Because right now, it's the next day, Tuesday at 6:35 or something. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 6:37 a.m.
6:37. And I have to get my day started, which is get ready for work. Be ready for that silly 7:30 a.m. window when I don't have to go in. I don't have to be there till 10. But I think I discussed this earlier, like in a previous video. The way it happens is, being blind, I can't just hop in the car and go where I want, when I want. My least favorite part of being blind. And so I have to call door-to-door transit on days like this when my preferred, more convenient ride service, who understands I want to be there at 9:30 and will pick me up at like 9 o'clock or 8:50. The problem with them is they're not always available. Today being the perfect example. They called me the other day and said, about Tuesday, there is nothing we can do for you at all. We can't take you in, we can't take you home. You're going to have to find another way to get to work. So, the only other way I have in the morning is door-to-door transit. Which I call and say, here's when I need to be there. Well, I need to be there at 9:30. I really need to be there at 10. I always tell people to get me there by 9:30. So I've got a little, like, room to, like, relax and not necessarily be so rushed like I was yesterday. Because yesterday, my whole transportation plan fell apart, which was partially my fault. I was so busy making a phone call that was supposed to maybe last, be that as it may. The point is, it was a cab, and unlike the preferred ride service van, I didn't realize until yesterday how much they won't wait for you. If you're not there, literally, they're a lot like door-to-door transit. If you don't get there within like 3 or 5 minutes or however long, I don't know how long this guy waited, but he got to the point where he was like, well, screw her, I'm not waiting anymore, and took off. By the time I finally got out there, there was no reason to believe he was there. I do believe he left. So, that's not a reason to take paid time off. I've got more than enough time to take this vacation that means everything to me in the summer, and even another vacation. But what if, God forbid, we're going into flu season, or if not in flu season? What if I get sick or something? I need to save PTO, not take it for no reason. So, I did the only thing I knew to do. I ordered an Uber at the last minute, and it all worked out, but the pre-planned stuff really is the best way to go about it. Anyway, I was stuck with door-to-door transit today, and I called them. I said, I need to be at work by 9:30. They said, we'll see you between 7:30 and 8. I'm like, fine. I would have preferred like 8:10 to 8:40, but whatever. They know what their schedule is, and they got me on that one, so fine. See you at 7:30 or 8 o'clock or wherever in between you want to come. That's another thing. I have no power over when they come. They could show up at 7:30, they could show up at 8 o'clock, they could show up whenever, somewhere in that. And when they show up, literally, if you're not out there within 5 minutes, you're effed. Because they'll do the same thing that cab did yesterday. They'll leave without you and you're effed. So, yeah, that's just the situation that you find yourself in. At some point, I hope to take the power over my life back, over my blindness. Now, if you ask different blind people how to do that, you might get different answers from what I'm going to say. If you ask a super blind traveler, I call them super blind because, there are places that I actually went to one of them, and I still, good things and bad things happened during that year. I respect them as a place. It's just there are some people who are never going to meet their standards. No matter how they try to teach them, they will never meet their standards. This idea of a person walking everywhere or walking to a bus stop and taking the city bus everywhere they ever want to go is, number one, kind of inconvenient, but more to the point, number two, not everyone can do it. Some blind people, completely aside from the fact that they're blind, they don't have the brain power in the right place to orient themselves to where in the city they are enough for long enough to keep track of whether or not they're going the right way, in the right place. One thing I would run into, just pulling street names out of the history here, is not the history of where I was, but the history, you know what I mean. You will know what I mean when I say this. One thing I would run into is I thought I was walking down one street and I'd be walking down another. I thought I was standing at the corner of maybe 17th and Clinton, and I was really standing on the corner of 17th and Obama, crossed this street instead of that street, and, okay, where the fuck am I now? Sorry, but not censoring myself anymore. So, yeah. You can't walk and take buses everywhere. It's just not realistic. Some blind people can do that. This one can't. So, where does that leave me? Stuck at the mercy of other people because I can't drive. That's my least favorite part of being blind. But at some point, I hope to learn how to somehow get some amount of control over. What that's really probably going to mean is taking Ubers most places. Or having a built-in network of drivers. That's probably my dream. Having a whole list of people. I used to listen to the school bus radio. I haven't done that for a long time because I've never been able to find school bus radios on my iPhone radio apps. And my scanner bit the dust a year or two ago. And I haven't prioritized saving up to buy a new one. So, I really haven't listened to school bus radios for a long time. But what used to happen when I did was I would hear, "Hey, dispatcher, I'm just not feeling well. I think I can make it through the rest of the morning, but I need somebody to cover, my midday and my afternoon. I have to go home after I drop off my last kids and come back to the yard." Okay, well, if I just sub. They then proceed to go through their whole list of drivers, saying, "Your next shift doesn't start until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Would you be available for a midday today?" And, they go down the list until they find someone who says, "Sure, I didn't have anything else going today, I'll take it." And then I guess they've got another kind of depth chart of drivers, and they would call them and say, "I've got a route that needs to be covered this afternoon, can you take it?" And they would get that driver covered so they could go home sick. Okay, that's what I need. I need a whole list of drivers so that when my preferred ride service says, with all the rides that we had requested for this particular day, we had 200 rides and 20 drivers and 188 people had to be told, "We really can't help you at all. And I'm afraid you're going to be one of those people. There's nothing we can do for you." I need to be able to say, "Okay, well, thank you for trying." And then instead of going straight to door-to-door transit and one or two people, and if they're not available, be forced to go to Uber, I need to say, "Okay, thanks for trying." And then call up my list of 22 people and call and text and call and text and call and text until I find somebody who says, "Sure, I can take you in the morning." How much I would love it if I had people that would say, "Sure, I'll take you in the morning. I know where your workplace is. I've taken you there plenty of times before, and I am available at 9 o'clock in the morning to take you in there." I simply do not have that. Door-to-door transportation is the only thing I have to fall back on when they say we can't take you in the morning. I have a tiny group of people that I can call on in the afternoon, but in this case, there was really only one on this particular day that I could call on, and he's not in town at the moment. So it's going to be impossible for him to pick me up. I'm actually calling on the person that is most available on Friday and saying, "Are you available before I just take an Uber?" And she said, "Well, I don't know. You're going to have to call, like, literally half an hour before your shift stops, and I'll let you know what my day has turned out to be like." Which is fine, because by the time I'm getting an Uber, it's... the most spontaneous way to do it is getting an Uber. Why don't I take Ubers everywhere? It's mostly because of money. It's mostly because I take Ubers really sparingly, because if there's a need for an emergency Uber, no one's available to take me home from work. Shit happens in the morning and I end up having to take an Uber in the morning. I need to be able to get into work and home from work. And my commute is so long that to or from work is probably the most expensive Uber trip I can take. On a whim, decide to go into Walgreens. That's a pretty easy Uber trip. Go to various places around the neighborhood. If I wanted to get an Uber bad enough, I could. Going to work, that's a necessity. And that's a place where I really can't afford to not have the Uber cash to do it. Or, even if not the Uber cash, the cash. I don't have credit cards, and I don't think I'm ever going to get a credit card. I have a problem with overspending when I get a credit card in my hand. The best way to not overspend is to not have the idea of more money than I really do, and the way to keep that idea out of my life is to not have credit cards. So I don't have credit cards. I have to deal with the money that's literally there. And because of that, I'm kind of afraid to take Ubers just randomly and spontaneously without thinking about it, because when I'm stranded at work or having to figure out some reason, almost thinking about what would I lie about to make up a really good reason to take a PTO day. Actually, I wouldn't do that. That's just not me. But I almost find myself in that position because the truth is I don't have an Uber. I don't have money for an Uber, and I can't. My whole transportation plan just fell to nothing. But that's not what I did yesterday, is it? I had the Uber cash, and I got to work. That's what needs to be able to happen. I don't have the cash to just randomly take Ubers everywhere. Now, will that eventually change? Potentially. Will I rethink how I spend my money and start prioritizing having money for the random Uber ride, or enough money to get to the point where I can say, screw door-to-door transit, I'll just get an Uber? Because the truth is, spontaneously and conveniently, Uber is the best way. But you sacrifice convenience, in some cases, for inexpensive. Door-to-door transit, as much of a pain in the ass as they are only $2.50 per ride. And
6:55 a.m.
And the preferred ride service, the preferred ride service, I have to cancel this recording because I don't want this recording. It's not what it's supposed to be, and I'm not gonna. The preferred ride service doesn't make you pay anything, but again, they're only available 30 to 50% of the time. Or is it that little? I'm not exactly sure percentage-wise how often they're available. I just know that on a day like today, they're not available. And I know that after rambling for literally half an hour, I'm not available to ramble anymore. I have to get ready for this window that opens in literally 35 minutes. This is how I end up with an hour plus worth of footage, because I can't shut up. Well, it's not about shut up. Vlogs are vlogs, and this is just a fact about me. I ramble. And I get it if you don't like to listen to people who ramble. You can not subscribe. I say that it's not exactly conducive to my dreams of being a person who makes money off of YouTube, but more important than that, I'm not gonna censor myself. And I mean, I believe in editing, yeah, but if I want to ramble on, I'm gonna do it. If I want to cuss, I'm gonna do it. Like my favorite TV character, who is just a sneaky person that I'm not gonna say love to hate, she's not that bad. Sometimes love, sometimes, ugh, girl, what are you up to now? Just stop. As she said to her sister, who turned out to be not what she thought her sister was at all. Like she said, you do what you want and I'll do what I want. You live your life just 100% according to what you think the Bible says. I'll live my life believing in a God that is not going to send you to hell because you watched certain TV shows and said certain things that expressed hatred for the circumstances, not for the people around them. And on that note, I have to stop this and get ready for work. Otherwise, that door-to-door transit driver is going to do exactly what that cab driver did.
7 a.m. One notification.
And I'm going to take Uber through this entire vacation instead of being able to take it. Okay, app that I'm not even sure how much I'm going to be using, I do not need to be hearing from you right now. I just got a notification from this app that is a good app for a lot of people. The question is it a good app for me? Well, that's so not on my priority list right now. Okay, I just spent so long rambling about how blind people get rides and how I wish I had a built-in network of drivers, and how if anyone wants to judge me, they can keep their opinions to themselves and not subscribe. I don't want to get monetized on YouTube because you guys are... I mean, I want to get monetized on YouTube, but I don't want to do it at the expense of... I don't want 1 million subscribers if 999,999 of them are people who are going to comment on my every video saying, well, you're so wrong, or you're this, you're that, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Keep it to yourself. What I am not going to keep to myself right now is that we are at 15 minutes plus, and I'm going to call this the end of this part of this vlog, and we're going to move on to getting ready to work, going to work, and living out the rest of the day on a different vlog. Please follow me on Twitter, or if you must, on Facebook. Check out the description below for services and petitions that I believe in, and I'll see you in the next video when you hear what I have to say.